Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to our second episode of podcast number 2, which is the Disciple Maker Index and the survey itself on all things new that just was released last Ash Wednesday. You're joined here with Brody Hale and Tony
Good evening.
Kozik, and
Good
we
evening,
will
folks.
be dissecting this survey one by one question each, I should say, to kind of explain it all and let you see it all. So first things first is I'm going to try and share the screen so you can actually see what we're seeing as far as you can follow it along anyway. Give me just 1 second. That's not the right one. There we go. And so we should be able to see my computer screen here in just a moment, which will allow you to see. We have this up on SaveRomeoftheWest.com. And if you go to our podcast section and scroll down, you will see the Disciple Maker Index. And so we're just going to dive right in because there's a ton of questions here. And it starts off with
75 one. Total.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And so we'll start with the very first one of your language, which we chose English. I don't think that one's too hard to figure out. And then you go to the very next screen is to how you identify yourself. Catholic. I am Catholic once, but no longer Catholic myself, or consider myself Catholic, I should say. Or I am not Catholic. Now, there seems like this is the obvious choice for sure to be picking Catholic on this one. Simply from the standpoint of
why people are filling it out.
why are you even in the survey if you're not choosing Catholic, right? So that's why we chose that one. And so the next one is which of the following describes your path to Catholicism? Well, I mean, this one you need to be honest on. Whether you were a cradle Catholic or a convert. I mean, what was your what were our thoughts on this one? I mean, I think this is just a straightforward one, really, when it comes down to it.
It's extremely straightforward, and we're running through this survey, of course, to basically explain to folks what all is going on here with this survey that was put up. So every question that we're going to go through and answer, we're sort of going to explain.
Both the survey and were you hearing me talking just now?
Jason, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Yeah, I was just making sure that we're on the same page. I wasn't hearing anybody talk there for a second, so I wanted to double check that because when I'm on the screen side, sharing side, I have to kind of I can't see the video side of things. So
no, we're here. I was just, as I say, before we proceed, I was just going to sort of explain. We're here. We're going to walk through this just to sort of give everybody an idea of what's going on here with this survey and why we, why it's even been made. So we're going to take it question by question, as was said, and with this question, absolutely.
One thing that I will say about everything is that we need to pause real quick and pray. I was remiss in not beginning our podcast with a prayer, and I think that might be where some of our technical difficulties are coming into play.
Let's stop and do that.
Yeah. So, Tony, would you like to lead us in prayer?
Okay, I will lead. Actually, after we finish our prayer, could we check, Jason? Could you check to see how many people are on with us? In the name of the Father and Son and the Holy Spirit, amen.
Amen.
Jesus, we come to you tonight as the head of our church. We ask for your guidance, and we ask for guidance for the whole Archdiocese of St. Louis, Lord. This is a critical time, and we come to you because we're just sinners, and we need you to take us and take our whole church forward. We are your body, and you are our head, Lord. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen.
Amen.
Okay. So for some reason, my audio keeps cutting in and out. I do hear you right now. But if for some reason I don't respond, it's because there's a delay for some reason here. What I've done, and maybe let me just try something here. I'm just going to go ahead.
Breaker here, bringing you an exclusive interview with recently disgraced Mayor Humby.
Sorry about that. Are you still with me?
Yep.
We are all still with you.
Yes, we are.
This is the danger of going live, and things happen that are unexpected. But we're going to be fine.
Sorry for that. I should have just left Ain't Good Enough alone.
While
Tony,
we're waiting, I can.
Yes, we can.
Tony, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Indeed.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. That's my fault. I apologize for that. It was just a technical error. I thought I could broadcast my computer screen over to my TV and be able to see things a little bit easier, but unfortunately there was a delay in the sound there, so I do apologize for that. Okay, so we've done the very first couple questions here, and I am going to.
So we're on the baptism/convert question.
Right. Okay, now this is working better. All right, so what we kind of said on that one is, to be honest, right? Like, this isn't a one that's going to be a critical question, so we can just move to the next. Which of the following best describes where you are on your Catholic journey? So when we looked at this one, we really thought that the very first choice was the best response, simply because, I mean, if you look at these answers, my relationship being the most important relationship in my life, I've encountered them and I'm growing. I practice my faith, but don't know him personally. And then I consider myself Catholic through faith, or though faith, sorry, is not a significant part of my life. I mean, we feel like the first answer is honestly the best answer. And that would be simply because, if you go with any other answer, they're going to try and spin it as, oh, well, we're going to try and make things better by, utilizing and implementing this program.
Because what has to be understood is that the Catholic Leadership Institute, isn't that what it's called, Jason?
Yes.
Yeah, the Catholic Leadership, CLI, yeah.
They have an entire package of services that they sell in addition to basically doing diocesan restructuring. And we suspect that based on the answers that are in this survey, there are going to be attempts made to perhaps buy other services that these folks may offer. So the trick is here to answer this in such a way that we can have high quality Catholicism continue in St. Louis. Go ahead, Jason.
Well, that, and we want to make sure that we're sending a unified message as well, right?
Exactly.
So that's kind of the point of what we're doing here in going through the survey, is to kind of outline kind of the thought process and what they're digging out of each of these, and kind of how they're going to spin each of these questions. So yeah, that's really
we want to avoid spin.
I'm sorry?
We want to avoid spin.
Exactly. Or at least explain or show you what the spin's going to look like if we get a unified voice going. Tony, you want to read the next one?
Okay. Which of the following best describe the pace of your spiritual growth. And number 1 is in a period of rapid spiritual growth, growing at a steady, continuous pace, growing in my faith, but would like to grow more than I am, content staying right where I am spiritually, stalled in my spiritual growth, in a period of spiritual decline.
Let's have you unpack that, Jason.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: when you're looking at these answers, we felt like the very first answer is the most relevant or best choice, if we're truly trying to save our parish and save the church in general. Because if you look at any of these other selections, growing at a continued pace and growing, over time, it's like if you don't choose that first one, they're going to take and turn it to where, oh, well, we need to work on these things. And so therefore, this new program with All Things New is going to change all of that. So, we want to help your spiritual growth through this consolidation process, because there's going to be multiple pools of people, a greater talent source, if you will, to, help enrich your spiritual growth. However, if you just say you're at a rapid, the easiest spin that they're going to say is, we'll just be able to continue to do what we're doing already. So, I mean, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add to that, Tony or Brody, on this one.
No, that's good for me.
It's good for me. I would just say, I mean, again, here's where we're getting into the spin, and just again, we're trying to avoid the worst spin here. So, yeah, that choice 1 is definitely the choice that I would go with. I think that we would go with on that.
Right. So then we get into the next part of our survey, which, hang on, I think I bounced.
Looks a little bit different.
Yeah, it's a lot different, actually. It's these parish connections. It's these questions that go from strongly agree all the way to the range of strongly disagree, and one in the middle and one on either side of that fence. It's like you got the middle of the fence, you got the far right, far left, and maybe on one side or the other. A lot of this, honestly, I mean, while we have recommended answers for each of these, it's truly based on what we feel is going to be the way they throw it back at us, so that you can see that this is already pre-planned. I mean, that's kind of the part of it too, is so that you can understand that what we're doing here with Save Rome of the West, and our main goal is so that you have the education, and B, can see that we have the tools to combat these things, which is why we're unpacking this. So we get into that very first one.
Well, could I make a comment here, Jason?
Yeah, absolutely.
That? And when we get into these multiple choice, it's really really very biased in a negative sense, because they put all the strongly disagree to the left, which is and right next to the question, which tends to point you in that direction, while the strongly agree are way over to the right. And I think from a standpoint of this survey, it's really biased toward this strongly disagree.
Absolutely biased to that, and the reason being is that if the unified voice is on that side, then they're basically going to unpack their program as, look, we see that you're disappointed with your faith and disappointed with the way things are going in the church, and we've got years of experience in making this grow in such a way that's going to make things so much better for you, right?
So let's just close 2/3 of your churches, and we'll start, everything will just magically improve, basically, is where we're headed with this.
Right, which then makes what? All things new.
Right.
Look at that. So so we get into this next section, and we see that my parish helps me connect with a local community by, first of all, making me welcome and accepted. Obviously, you want your parish to be one of those. Like, if your parish shows up as one of the ones that shows as not feeling welcome and accepted, well, I guess we don't need to keep that one around. That's an easy one.
That's going to push it way up on the closure list. So we definitely have to say that it's welcoming and accepting here. So strongly agree.
Yep. And
on
so
that one.
Yep. And then the very next one is providing me with opportunities to serve those in need. Again, I mean, this is strongly agree. And you know, if we're not doing that, if we're not serving others, then what are we doing? You know, why are we out there? And you know, again, it's to me, this is one of those things. Do you want to put a target on your parish's back? That's the question you got to ask.
Yeah. If you don't, you've got to answer strongly agree here.
Right.
And on that one. Next one.
Yep. Tony, you want to take that?
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay. No, I was going to say, you want to take the next one? All right. Well, all right. Following up with me when I express interest in becoming more involved. I mean, this one's the silliest question, one of the sillier ones. I mean, there's plenty of them actually in the 75 question say. But like, if someone goes to an organization of any kind inside the church or in the church itself and expresses a desire to become more active, what church doesn't actually follow up with them? Like, they are dying for volunteers. There's, you know, the laborers are few, or what is that?
The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few.
That's it. I was drawing a blank. I mean, I knew what I was trying to say, but for some reason it was just on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, I mean, that's truly the case in any given parish, is that there is plenty of work to do within the parish, that they're not going to turn away help or turn away interest. And I don't know if I've ever experienced a parish that would say, oh, no, we're good. Thanks for your offer, but we're going to move on. So if you want your parish on the chopping block, you know,
if you want your parish to be closed, answer something other than strongly agree. If you'd rather not put a target on your parish's back, check strongly agree.
There you go. And then we move on to the next one: providing a community to support me and or my family in times of need. I would hope that every Catholic parish out there does this.
Indeed.
I mean, if it's not doing that, then yeah, I guess be honest and let it get on the chopping block, because this should be one of the first, you know, I would even say top 3 things that from a pastoral standpoint that they should be taking care of their flock, especially in those times of need. So, you know, outside of hitting strongly agree, again, you're putting the target on your back.
Right.
So then we get these ones that, you know, we're not gonna give them a chance to spin. Which is this next one: involving me in decisions that affect the future of the parish. You know, this one, like, really, for me, like, the laity, while we pay for the church and we pay, you know, like, I don't have to talk to each individual parishioner. And as the pastor, I should have the, you know, decision-making ability to handle the decisions that, you know, how the church is guided and how the parish is guided. This shouldn't be in the hands of a layperson. Does a layperson have involvement in a parish? Absolutely. But does every layperson need involvement? I'm going to say no, because, you know, or many parts in one body. You know, certain parts of the body don't necessarily need to have the function that other parts need, right? And being the head of the body as a pastor, you know, this is your job, right? To make those decisions. And yeah, can you ask the other parts? Absolutely, but you don't have to wait for their input in order to, you know, move forward. And I believe that a part of this particular question is really to guide what they're trying to do, which is take away the pastoral rights, you know, take away their canonical rights. And if we select anything other than middle of the road because it's none of our, you know, then.
Well, another point to be made on this, if you look at the All Things New website in the Archdiocese, they have rules and questions that were asked. One of those is, how will this include all of the faithful? And so there's going to be support parish listening sessions to inform parishioners about the pastoral planning initiative and obtain their feedback on future models of parish life. Now I think they're going to have 6 representatives from each parish. But then after that statement, they have a note. Please note, the key parish leaders do not have any role in creating the draft models, nor do they have the responsibility to make any decisions. So they've kind of answered this in their rule.
Go ahead, Tony. Go ahead, Tony. I'm sorry.
I just finished. Yeah, I'm good.
No, I mean, what you've got there is basically the veneer of popular involvement. And we're going to have a whole separate talk on listening sessions in the coming weeks and the sham that they are. And I will say that. I have no fear of saying that they're a sham. Anybody who's been through a listening session knows they're a sham, and they've always been a sham. But the long and the short of it is, this is all to make this survey even, and we'll get into this in the after session that we do after we're done. But this survey even is simply an effort to make lay people feel like their voice actually matters, when in reality it absolutely does not, on the part of what's going to be happening as we move forward here when they're choosing which parishes to close. And at least they're honest enough to put that on the website and make that very clear.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And when you say sham, I mean, that truly is what it is. Decisions have already been made for sure. But, we do need to have a unified voice in this, and it is important that we get the survey filled out. So
exactly. And that's why we're going to walk through it. So definitely, let's just circle back for a moment to the question that we're on.
Involving me in decisions that affect the future?
Right. So the thing of it is, if you answer this question in such a way that says that, they do or they don't, it can be spun against you. So the trick is to put neither here on this one.
Right. And then that's going to be the same answer is going to be utilized on the very next question, which was providing transparent information to me about the finances of the parish. This one, I mean, this is one of the strong problems, like the overall problem in all of this, right? The transparency factor, and how they would spin this on the agree or disagree side of things. Really, again, is if you're going to be transparent, let's really be transparent across the board, not just with financial decisions, not just with one piece of the equation, right? We need to be fully transparent all across the board, which is one of the solutions that we feel is going to be in the long term truly the answer if they are trying to revitalize the church as they say they are. But really this is about selling them. And so when you get into this financial aspect of it as to whether or not they're transparent, well, I mean, think about that one for a second, and what that would translate to if you went to either side of the fence, right? Like,
let's talk through that, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, Brody, your thoughts? I mean, as far as that piece is concerned, like, because that's where what I just said is kind of like where I'm at with it.
No, you're totally right. And I mean, let's assume that you put strongly agree that it's transparent. I don't, maybe your parish is super transparent. I find many that aren't. So if you put strongly agree there, you're not going to get any more from this. If you put strongly disagree, it could be used against your parish, in terms of having its continued right to exist. So any way you answer this one, you're basically putting a target on yourself. So the easiest way to handle this question is to select neither.
Right, because then they can't use that against you in any way, shape, or form.
Correct.
If you're right in the middle there, it's kind of one of those things that they, that's not ammo I can use for this particular battle. And then we get into the next one, unless there's more thoughts on that previous one. Tony, you have anything on that?
No, I don't. That's good.
Okay. So we get to the next one, and it says making information about the parish easy for me to find via a bulletin, a web, email. We chose strongly disagree on this one, and simply because in this information age that we're in, there's very few parishes out there that don't have this resource. So if you put that, I don't know, I can't remember exactly what our thought process on this one was, frankly, because I mean, are you there?
Let's wait for 1 second. Tony, you did choose strongly disagree, correct, on this one?
Yes, we did.
We did. And I think the reason was we were basically saying, look, this shouldn't be something that a parish is graded on in terms of whether it does this well or not. Because if we're talking about announcements, what's the easiest way to find out what announcements are coming out of a parish? It's to actually go there and hear them. Because I guarantee you, every Mass, there's a set of announcements that are made at any parish in the Archdiocese of St. Louis. So, yeah, we're obviously it's important to have them posted somewhere, maybe, but I don't know who would be going to something that, if they're not going to Mass anyway, it's doubtful someone would be coming to whatever else is going on. So the point was to basically try to eliminate anyone from being able to claim that they're better than anyone else at doing this by having a sort of strongly disagree check.
That's right.
Jason,
right. Okay.
It's basically taking away the ability of some parish that actually is super tech savvy from lording it over some parish that isn't. Because the question of whether a parish is tech savvy and can actually handle a bulletin or a website has nothing to do with whether their events are well attended or anything else. Again, if somebody wants to know what's going on at a parish, just fulfill your Sunday obligation to go to Mass and go to Mass there. Simple.
Yep. The most
Easy peasy.
important stuff there is going to be outlined in the announcements, obviously, or in the bulletin. That every parish, I even the parishes out there right now that probably have the lowest attendance, if you will, have bulletins every week, right? And talk about different events or whatever. And this isn't about the events. I mean, some of it is there's a fellowship aspect for sure. The only way you're going to have fellowship is if you're there. So that's the important thing. So moving along to the next one. My parish communicates effectively through online platforms, text, and social media, and that kind of goes back to the question that we just answered. We don't necessarily want one parish to lord it over another, and this is why we did choose strongly disagree on that one. Any other thoughts on that one?
No, just what I just said on the last one. So great,
Right.
a parish is able to put a good Facebook page together, whatever. Why should that determine whether it stays open? So that's why we figured the easiest way to level the playing field on this is to just have everyone answer strongly disagree.
Sorry if my screen's jumping a little bit there. I'm trying to keep it in the middle as best I can, but the way this is set up is like the scroll, depending on where your cursor is at, the scrolling is going to be on the inside or outside, so I apologize. So we're on to the next page, and it's below our several ways your parish community can help you grow spiritually, and it's all these questions are precluded by my parish helps me grow spiritually by, and the very first one is helps me develop a personal prayer life that connects me with God. I mean, if your parish isn't doing that, I would say either find a new parish, or
if you don't care if your parish closes,
put a different response than what we put up there, so it throws itself on the chopping block, because this is like one of the very most important things about what we do is that relationship with God, and making sure that we're giving him the praise and due that and reverence that he's due, right? Beyond that, if you choose anything else, you're basically putting a target on your parish's back, right?
I agree.
The other comment I had around this was the important thing in your church is that I considered very important that you have a reverent church that you can go into and really meet the Lord and pray to the Lord on a very personal basis. That it would have just a reverent church, and it would be a place where you know that Jesus is there, and you can go meet him very quietly, person to person.
And to that point, make sure that he's not being desecrated, right?
Indeed,
Yes.
indeed.
That would be the next piece, right? I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. And that's, again, goes back to what we feel truly is the answer, not some survey that's going to fix, supposedly fix this problem, make all things better or new or whatever the hell they want to call it. So, and so we get into that very next one, offering vibrant and engaging Sunday masses. Now, a couple thoughts on this. Now, we did choose strongly agree on that.
Right.
But
simply because,
and this is just a personal thing. It's not necessarily anything directed at anybody in particular. But do you go to mass to be engaged, or do you go there to worship God? I mean, that would be my question on that. Like, why is this even in here, right? Am I going there for some entertainment? Am I trying to get a rock and roll concert? Am I trying to, get a comedy show? No, I'm trying to learn more about God and how I can grow closer to him, and what can I do to give thanks for all the blessings that he has given me. And that's truly, like, for me, the most personal reason I can give you out there as to, what's going on.
Jason, I just want to interrupt very quickly because Sue asked a question. Is this survey, and we're going to get to all the questions at the end, but I just wanted to clarify for Sue. This survey is for the Catholics of the Archdiocese of St. Louis. This is not for another diocese. This is a survey that the Archdiocese is asking all Catholics to complete, that they're going to use as part of their parish restructuring / really parish closure process. So this survey, just to answer Sue's question, this is a survey for St. Louis Catholics that St. Louis Catholics are being asked to answer.
But it's also a cookie cutter survey that CLI actually utilizes, across the board, right?
It's probably utilized in every diocese.
And yes, so the current one that we are showing is the one that that the Archdiocese is using. That is currently the one that was released on Ash Wednesday. And so what we have here is basically screenshots of the answers that we've come up with on all of this. Because Thursday night, Tony, Brody, and I and the team basically went through all of these questions together to make sure that we have this dissected properly, and so that we can have that unified voice. And I can, at the end of the broadcast, we can provide you where you can go to
get the survey,
and get that. I'll just have to find it. It's off the Archdiocese website. Like, if you get into archsdl.org, I believe it is. That's where, isn't it archsdl.org, Tony?
Yes.
Yeah. So you go there. I mean, like, you literally click on all things new, and it's going to be the first thing. They don't. I don't think they're going to actually send it per se.
No, they're not going to send it to you. They're going to expect Catholics, and that's another problem, because that's a self-selecting model as well. This survey is not going to be representative, because how many Catholics are going to know or take the time to get on to their website and fill it out? They're not going to hand these out in church. That's a good question, Sue. If you want to fill it out, you're going to have to go and you're going to have to fill it out.
You need to pull back, Bertie. I can't hear
you. You're going to have to.
Two ways to do it. You can do it personally online, or the other way, they will accept a copy, a hand-filled out copy, but it has to be submitted through your parish. Period. They don't want you to send them the Archdiocese. Your parish has to submit it if it's filled out by hand.
So basically, the whole thing is it's not designed to elicit maximum participation. I'm sorry, I was too far from my microphone. What I was saying is, it's not a representative survey. So all the more reason why we have people, why we're going to walk through this, and why we're going to post this podcast and ask people to watch it and basically help them fill this out also, because we've got to explain this to folks. It's not being explained well enough.
Right. But, and the other piece of it too is like we kind of said a little earlier, is having a unified voice, making sure that we as fellow Orthodox Catholics, truly want the same outcome in all of this. And the only way we're going to achieve that is if we, come together and set certain differences aside, So
getting back to vibrancy, if we just could for a second, in Mass.
Yes. Yeah.
This question I found to be one of the bigger, one of multiple questions that just insulted me as a Catholic, because one of the things that our church has suffered from for so long is really this lack of understanding about why we go to Mass. And it's not the fault of lay Catholics, but it's just this de-Catholicization, if you will, of what Catholicism is. We're not there to be, as you said, Jason, entertained. The purpose of the Mass is for us to engage in worship and be present at the consubstantiation of the Blessed Eucharist, the Holy Eucharist. When the bread and wine is transformed into the body and blood of Christ. And when you have a survey that highlights the question of vibrancy and various other things like that, it simply draws us and all Catholics farther and farther away from the purpose of being there. And it shows that the survey in and of itself is skewed.
And it also shows the skewing of what true reverence and holiness is also, right? Like, this is right now the church's perception of what reverence and holy is, having this vibrant, engaging, Mass. I know that part of Vatican II's purpose was to engage the parish community, the lay community, a little bit more actively by changing the vernacular, but so many liberties were ended up taken as a result of that, which is really truly where the root cause of a lot of this problem is. But we could talk about that particular topic for hours on end.
And we're not going to tonight.
So we need to move along because there's still a lot of questions here.
I'd like to make one comment about this, because this is engaging in that. One of the reasons in the opening statements when they were introducing this All Things New, I'll read directly but as we have seen, the culture has changed. We entered into a new apostolic age when the church must assume a secular mentality. That means Catholics must go out to people. And I think what they asked by this question, since the 60s, things have been declining. And what they've done is, like Masses, it's like, oh, how do we make them more vibrant and engaging? And that hasn't really spoke to the people.
No.
What we really see, at least my experience is that the churches that seem to be really full for Masses are the ones where it's a reverent and a holy Mass.
Right.
And no other cute little band singing or playing or that. It's about reverent. And those are the churches that are full. And even with young people, because the Lord really calls you when you come to Him and you're reverent and you treat the Mass as holy. He speaks to you. He really speaks to you.
Well,
and that's what calls people.
And that leads to our absolute next question about offering music that deepens my desire to participate more fully in Sunday liturgy. This is a middle of the road one, right? Neither agree or disagree, because, again, this is something that we feel that they're going to use this one in a plethora of ways to spin things either for their program or against your parish. It's like it's an either or situation.
Yes.
Right. Yep. So we really want to be careful about that one as far as that's concerned, because this is why we chose middle of the road, because we just don't want to give them ammunition.
No, we don't.
And then you get to that next one, which is connecting me with a small faith sharing group. Again, ammunition for fodder for their cannons, if you will, because you go to either side of the spectrum, it's gonna, and that's what, like I said earlier, the whole thing with these strongly agree, strongly disagree in the middle of the road. It's like they have certain answers for, if the majority of the people go on this side, this is what we're gonna say. If the majority of the people go on that side, that's what we're gonna say. But if you throw people in the middle on certain things that are like cannon fodder type of questions like these, then they don't have anything.
It takes away the data points. It doesn't
Right.
allow them to actually use the data against us.
Right.
So that's why we're answering in this way with the neither.
Yeah. And then you get into the next one, which is preaching and homilies that connect my faith with my everyday life. Now, again, this is a middle of the road one. But the comment I would have on this is that when I go to church and I listen to a homily, it's not necessarily how it connects to my everyday life, but how does this reading help me grow closer to God, or how can I apply it to help me grow closer to God? And some of it, yeah, sure, it does apply to my everyday life, but it's not necessarily, when Jesus talked about this, he was talking about spending less time on Facebook, or
Right.
or something to that effect, right? Like it's not about that type of stuff. It's and this is why we kind of chose middle of the road on this one, again, to not give them cannon fodder. But it just, for me, this one was kind of insulting as a Catholic, to have this in the mix of it.
Because if you put strongly agree, then you're going to keep getting whatever you're getting in terms of homiletics. And if you put strongly disagree, because your pastor may be giving you actual, substantive homilies, who knows what may happen to him.
Yeah.
So we're going to just put neither on this one.
Right. And just a quick, I'm going to, and I know we're going to have Q&A at the end, but certain comments that pop in through here, we'll address as we see fit. And this last one that came in from Ben. What are the odds that they're actually going to look at the survey responses? He feels like they're going to ignore them, since the surveys are just a way for them to pretend like they care. Spot on, sir. Spot on, because
Agreed.
that truly is what it is. It's this feeling of, oh gosh, not entitlement.
Feeling of participation, making people feel as if they've been patted upon the head, and
that their voice has been heard.
All that touchy-feely stuff.
Yeah.
And God, I'm sorry, Jason.
No, I just said warm fuzzies.
Warm and fuzzies, exactly. And that's all this is about. And the thing of it is, even if they're not going to take these seriously, we can't give them the opportunity to use this against us. If we said don't fill it out, then they'd say, oh, well, they're being obstructionist, or people don't care, or any number of other things, and that could hurt parishes because somebody's going to fill it out. So what we're saying is, great, fill it out, give them these surveys, show them that people are engaged, show them that people are actually going to be following and paying attention to what they're doing, and do it in such a way so that when you send in your survey, none of the answers can be used against you in a way that would lead to your parish getting closed. Now, again, are they going to close what they're going to close? Likely, but it's going to be easier for them to close stuff if we give them the help to do it. And that's why we're trying to basically say, look, just fill this out carefully, and that's why we're here this evening, to try and guide you in that. So thank you, Ben, for that.
So moving on to the next one, providing retreats, workshops, and other resources to help me figure out my life's purpose. I mean, we all had a pretty good laugh when we heard this one.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, because I really felt like it's like, going and seeing the great guru, if you will. What is life's purpose? I mean,
that's not your parish's job. The Baltimore Catechism did that very nicely. If we've referred to it, go ahead, Jason.
No, absolutely, no. And
Tony, remember what was in the Baltimore Catechism? One of you guys quoted it very well the other evening.
To know, love, and serve God in this life, and to live with Him forever in heaven.
That's the purpose of your life. It's
Yes,
very, very cleanly spelled out. That is the answer to the question in the Baltimore Catechism. What is your life purpose? So seeing as the Baltimore Catechism already took care of that for us, it's not your parish's job. And even if we're going to like get kind of new agey on this and say, you know, your life purpose is like, what are you supposed to do with your life? That's the job of a career coach, perhaps. I don't understand why, except again, to sort of degrade the practice of the faith. I don't understand why this question is here.
Right. And again, this is why we chose the neutral response, because you could take this, you know, as cannon fodder for them again to use either to promote their program or destroy your parish. I mean,
one of the two.
You know, one of the two is
what
going to happen. So leave it in the middle, and then they can't really use that against us. I mean, go on and don't get us wrong. Like, and I know that Brody and Tony would agree with me on this. Retreats are great. Like I would recommend.
Agreed. I absolutely.
If not bi-yearly retreat, maybe even, you know, some people, if they can get more frequent, that's even better. Still, that recharge. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
Right.
But is that the parish's responsibility to put those on, or you know? No, it's not there. That's an archdiocese thing, really. If you will,
or a religious order thing. There are retreat centers that are led by the laity as well. Mulvern Retreat House in Pennsylvania, and I'm not saying everybody in St. Louis needs to go there, but I'm just saying, like, no, retreats are great. I have been fully recharged. One of the most moving experiences of my life recently was doing a retreat at the very end of my time in law school. You know, and it was just a very good way to clear my head after 3 years of law school. So no, I'm very big on retreats. I fully agree with what Jason said. It's just that this is it's a bad question, and it's not your parish's job. Go ahead, Tony. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I think the only problem we had was the to help me figure out my life's purpose.
Right.
Right.
That's not appropriate.
Exactly. So moving along, because there's still quite a few that we got to get through, and we're almost. Yep. Yeah, I don't want to lose.
We'll be here till the end.
Yeah, we will, absolutely. Teach me to read and pray with the Bible. We chose disagree on this one, and someone else go into the thought press on this, please. Any comments?
Well, basically, we were basically saying that the reason that we were here is because, again, this is something that you should have learned long before now. You know, we're not saying that the parish's job isn't to edify you or to teach you to read and pray and all of that, but there has to be a degree, you know, of self-involvement in this that leads us up to being able to participate. Sure, the parish's job is to like provide opportunities for faith sharing and all of that, but it was just the idea, teach me to read the Bible. It just seemed like a very badly worded question. Go ahead, Jason.
No, I agree with you. That's why I wanted your commentary on this, simply because, you know, Catholic Church in general, in my opinion, has done a terrible job of teaching anybody how to read and pray the Bible. This is why we did disagree, because it's been watered down. I mean, I'm 50 years old, and I haven't been able to get through cover to cover, even though I'm trying to work through it right now, because it hasn't been taught. And there's nowhere, you know, outside of some like courses out there that I found. I mean, there's I think there's a few clerics that have some decent teach or pray do the Bible in a year thing. I'm sure there's plenty of them out there. It's just they're not promoted. They're not, you know, any of this stuff to try and help a Catholic get through it. So
and to Sue's point, I just, looking at the questions that are coming in, Sue made a very good point. It sounds Protestant. Yes, Sue. Yes, it does. Bingo. If we could send you a gold star, we would. That is an absolutely apt statement. It sounds Protestant because basically, Sue, that's what it is.
Right. And then you get to that very next question of preparing me and my family for the sacraments, confirmation, marriage, baptism. They only got 3 of the 7. I guess you wouldn't prepare them for holy orders or anointing of the sick per se, but I guess those are the 3 most important in their opinion. Let's not think about reconciliation. That's not important. Let's be real. I mean, it
tongue in cheek, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. Tongue in cheek. I mean, come on.
But just to be clear, where is the emphasis on reconciliation? And we put strongly disagree on this, didn't we?
No, we just regular disagree.
Regular disagree.
And the reason being, again, this is goes back to what you had told us about not understanding the real presence, of the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ in the Eucharist, and that 70% of Catholics right now
don't understand it.
They don't understand it or wouldn't believe, and that's, I think, probably where that statistic came from, is a survey just like this.
Right.
And so, this is why because the Catholic Church has been really not as good as they should be on forming us when it comes to the sacraments.
Let's just look at that. So the reason we disagree is because, again, regardless of what your parish is doing, we need to send a message to the archdiocese that, again, we're not going to allow some parish that may be doing this better than another to stand out, but also that this is a problem. There's something wrong when the absolute central teaching of the Church, which is that the body and blood at Mass is consubstantiated, into the, body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. When that's not understood by 7/10 of the population of the Catholic Church, 70%, that's a serious, serious problem that somebody needs to do something about. I mean, not to repeat Jason fully, but we just needed to make that clear. And the same could be said, and we're not going to get into marriage prep and the rest of it, but I mean, let's be very honest, that's not exactly strong either.
Right.
In a lot of the church.
Especially when you look at last statistics I heard was still at like 50%. It might even be higher, and in divorce. So yeah. And we could, again, like this is what, when we chose to disagree, it's because, we want a strong message to be sent saying, hey, you guys need to wake up. And whether your church is great at it or not, it's kind of irrelevant. Most, I would say, majority of parishes out there fail miserably in this arena. So
thank you, Ben, for letting us know that came from the Pew survey. Go ahead, Jason. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just moving along. I apologize. So I was just going to the next question, unless there were some other comments that need to be made on this last one.
No, it's okay. We just need to really get serious about the sacraments as Catholics.
Absolutely.
So, reconciliation, Eucharist, marriage. Marriage is for life.
Right.
It's not, I can meet this person and then get rid of them later if I feel bored. No, it is a life commitment.
Right.
Unless there's something like abuse or some, a justifiable reason why someone should leave. But we see too often people throwing away other people and Catholics doing this, and that should be sacramentally taught that that's a no-no, and we just don't see it.
Right. All right, so moving to the next one, forming me as a disciple of Jesus Christ. I mean, this one's a chopping block question, right? If you put anything other than strongly agree, you're putting a target on your parish's back.
Indeed.
And so that takes us to that piece of the survey, and we're on to the next section, which deals with your relationship with your parish, your pastor, and your faith. This is going to be more neutral stuff than anything. It says the following questions ask about your likelihood to make a recommendation about your pastor, parish, and the Catholic faith. I would recommend my pastor to a friend.
Recommend him for what?
Exactly.
Recommend him for what?
This is why we neutralize this one.
Right.
We don't want them to be attacking our good clerics out there. And
we're
even
promoting the
bad ones that need to be attacked, we don't want them attacked either.
Right.
They need to be addressed, absolutely, but we're not trying to give them fuel for the fire, right? So
right.
This is why we chose strong, neither disagree or agree on that one. Next one, I would recommend my parish to a friend. We again felt like this one was a bullseye. You know, if you want to put a bullseye on your back, say anything but strongly agree.
Exactly.
Because again, if you don't like your parish and you wouldn't recommend it to someone else, and there's something wrong with it, and therefore it probably needs to go away in their eyes. Another middle of the road one, I would recommend the staff of my parish to a friend. Now, like, this was probably one of the most absurd ones we've seen.
Yes.
What does the staff have to do with anything in this equation? Now, granted, they do a lot for the church,
right,
and we're not discounting that fact, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not about how good or bad the staff is. And so therefore we don't want to give them anything to talk about in this arena. We want to leave this one alone.
Yes.
Any other comments on that one?
Nope.
No.
Okay. The next one, I would recommend other priests serving my parish to a friend. I mean, we had a chuckle on this one, not gonna lie. Serving my parish is what? This weirdly worded question,
right?
Which, you know, that's one of the reasons why we selected the neither agree or disagree on this one.
Correct.
Because it really makes zero sense. And then finally on this page of the survey, my parish helps me grow spiritually as a Catholic. Again, another bullseye on your parish's back if you're not growing spiritually as a Catholic in the community that you're in. So hit strongly agree on that one. And then we get into our personal beliefs. And, you know, we're supposed to put I personal believe before each of these statements. And we did choose strongly agree down the board on
the line
statements. And if you don't, you know, strongly agree with these, then geez, I would, you know, say that you are truly going to be putting a target, because all of these things you should agree with as a Catholic, that Jesus died and rose from the dead for my salvation, that the Eucharist really is the body and blood and also soul and divinity, which they didn't put in there, of Jesus Christ, that Scripture is the Word of God, and if it's not that, then what is it? What I would add to that. They didn't put that in there, but that's what I would add to that. And the teaching authority of the church, in the church, that the church is critical to my relationship with God, and in Jesus's moral teaching for my life as taught by the church. I'm going to rewind to the question just prior to that one, and just make a quick personal comment that, you know, it's critical to my relationship with God. I mean, are you going out to you going to church every Sunday, or are you just, you know, when I feel like it, you know? Are you a C&E Catholic? As what would be my question there, right? Like it's got to be critical. If it's not, then you're not being properly catechized, which unfortunately the majority of us are not. And I still have loads.
And look, if you haven't been properly catechized, that's okay. Please understand, we're not condemning anyone here. We're simply encouraging everybody who's watching this or reading this or whatever. If these are things, like if on especially these personal belief questions, you aren't sure why you should believe one or more of these, you know, I would say even message us and we'll direct you towards some resources that can help you with this, because this is what the Baltimore Catechism is for, basically, is to really help Catholics in these foundational beliefs and understand what it is that we are supposed to believe as Catholics. And if you're not answering these, they're going to be like, well, there's a problem with your parish. That's who's going to get the blame. So definitely it's important to answer these as you know, straight on down the line. I strongly agree, or however it's done.
Right.
And
go ahead.
The other question about this in the personal religious beliefs, this is the only section in the whole survey where they also included, next to strongly agree, I do not know. That is really kind of a strange thing to me. But personally, if we're really looking to improve the church, all the other survey questions I saw aren't important. This page here is the life of the church, and that's what we all should be focused on, are these questions. Because if there's somebody out there who doesn't agree with these, they need to be evangelized. They need to be taught the true faith. So
Indeed.
That's just my comment.
No, very well said, Tony. I couldn't have said it better.
Absolutely. So we move on to the next page, which is conversations about faith. My parish equips me to have conversations about my faith with family and friends. This is evangelization piece, I'm sure that they're kind of hitting on. And so the first point, providing high quality events and other opportunities to which I can invite people. This is one that we don't want to give them ammunition or even spin or anything on, which is why we chose neither agree nor disagree. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that one?
That's just basically going back to what we said earlier. Events do not a parish make, or the presence or lack thereof. So we're just trying to make sure that as few bullseyes as possible are being pinned to anybody's back here.
The next one, growing my confidence in the church's teachings so I can answer others' questions. We won't strongly disagree with that because we feel truly that, from an apologetic standpoint, the Catholic Church has failed.
All parishes.
I don't know of any parish out there that can say, "Oh, my parish is great at apologetics," which is essentially what this question is asking. And so this is more sending a message to them as a whole. Now I don't believe that they have some sort of apologetic program, but at the same token, if they did great, you know what? Let's bring it out, roll it out, because we need more of it. That's for sure.
And we're talking about true apologetics. We're not talking about watered down, silly stuff, left over from the 60s or whenever. We're talking about actual Catholicism here.
Yep, absolutely. Now, the next one, I'm not showing an answer on ours, exhibiting care to members of our community, not necessarily Catholics. I mean, if we're not doing this, what are we doing? Like, if we're not taking care, whatsoever you do to least of my brothers, that you do unto me. Like, when I see someone on the side of the road and says that they'll work for food or they're homeless or whatever, do I say, "Oh, hey, bud, are you Catholic?" and then offer them support? No, I reach out to anyone in need when I see the need present itself. That's truly what we should be doing, and this is why we really honestly didn't select something on this. This is not a matter of cannon fodder or spin. This is a matter of this question is just that absurd that you don't even deserve an answer or a response of any kind.
Right.
Yeah.
And let me just say this. It's not just when you see somebody that's homeless. It's when you see somebody who needs some sort of help.
Right.
I'll just share a personal story here just for a moment. Jason may remember this. Last August, after one of our meetings to sort of prep, we've been planning Save Rome of the West for a very long time as we were working on other stuff. But I had a problem with my phone. Jason stayed on the line with me, reloaded my phone, did a whole lot of stuff with my computer for 5.5 hours, basically, after the meeting. We were up till 2:30 in the morning doing this because that was just what he did. He dropped everything to help. And that's, as Catholics, what we all need to be doing for everyone else. Just to recap, I'm not being paid for this. None of us are. We're doing this because we are helping the church in St. Louis, not the Archdiocese, although we'd love to engage with them. We're doing this to help you as we help each other. So this is what it means to be Catholic, to give everything that we have and that we can give in service of our fellow men and women. Yeah. And thank you, Jason, again for your help.
Yeah, it's no problem. I didn't, that's just to me what Christ has always called us to do, is to serve one another, whether it is a fellow Catholic, whether it is, like I said, that person on the side of the road. I mean, there's plenty of other examples I could give you to show you where you can bring God into people's lives. But whenever I'm helping someone, it's never under the pretense of, whether or not they're a Catholic or not.
Exactly. Same here.
Yep.
Yes, and to the point of the questionnaire being tedious, yes, exactly. Triggering for sure. Okay, so on to the next one. Teaching me how to share the story of Jesus. Well, the church has failed miserably in teaching us how to evangelize and how to do that. So that's why we chose strongly disagree, and this is why we chose strongly disagree on these last two as well, of teaching me how to share my personal witness story and helping me recognize how God is working in my life. And I roll these two into one to a certain extent, just to kind of explain it from my own personal perspective. The only reason I know how to do either one of these things is only because I've gone through some retreat training and things of that nature, and have learned that in order to bring people closer, they have to know your personal experience. And I don't think I've ever seen a homily or a class or anything else, revolving around these two topics, that would, help you to really nail these things down, right? But they are super important for sure. These are issues inside the church that need to be addressed as a whole. And so as a whole Catholic community, this is why we say to choose the answers that we're recommending here. Any other thoughts there? All right, we shall move along.
Okay.
All right, participation at the church. How often do you do any of these following over the past year? Now, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, like, really, this is just stats, right? Like, this is, and some of these, hey, this is what you should be doing, which is why we have the selections that we have. And the other reason, like this very first one, how often do you invite someone to join you for an activity at the parish? You should be doing that on a weekly basis. When you see them at Mass Sunday, there should be something that you got going that week that you should invite your fellow Catholic or a friend, for that matter, to be joining you with that, because those are great opportunities to share the faith if utilized properly. So that's where weekly came into play. Invited someone to join me for Mass. Well, hey, anytime you see someone, that should be something that, as awkward as it may sound, it's something that we should be doing on a daily basis, right?
Yep.
And that's why, and again, these are just, unified voice questions that we're trying to throw out there. Invited a man to consider a vocation to the priesthood. I mean, how often do you connect with youth? I mean, I would hope at least monthly at the bare minimum. We do need more vocations, obviously, but we also need to address why we have the shortage before we are going to actually get those vocations. So that's why we chose monthly on that one. Next one, invited someone to consider a vocation to religious life. It's the same as the previous question, monthly. Answered another person's questions about a teaching of the Catholic Church. I mean, I would say that comes up probably on a weekly basis, right? Like you run across situations or things of a nature that would allow you to engage in that type of dialogue with people. So when the opportunity presents itself, step up to the plate, take a and understand it. Volunteer to serve as a member of our community, not necessarily as a Catholic. I mean, we should always be volunteering to utilize our time. So the next one is share the story of Jesus with another person. We should be always doing that every day. Sharing your witness story should be done every day, even though we don't know how to do it necessarily. And praying with another outside of Mass, that should absolutely be a part of our daily prayer life. And then you get down to the next piece, which is how often do you attend the following over the past year? Now, these are bullseye questions for your parish, right? Like, do you want to put a bullseye on their back or not? So individual prayer time with God, I mean, you should definitely be doing that daily. If you're not, you need to get a spiritual director, which is later in the survey. We'll get to that. Bible study or prayer group, with others that, you should be having someone that you pray with, or a group that you should be praying with, or learning more about the Bible on a weekly basis. You should be going to Mass at least weekly, if not daily. Sacrament of Reconciliation, that again should probably be done weekly. I think we all trip up probably on a daily basis. I could probably use daily confession, but don't necessarily have time. Pastoral counseling or spiritual direction, which is the one I said we were going to get to. We chose never on this one because this is a topic that honestly isn't addressed at all. Like, I didn't even hear about what like a spiritual director. And granted, now keep in mind, I went to seminary straight out of high school and didn't have one, right? Or was told that I had one, and I didn't hear that concept till probably about 10 years ago, maybe less than that. And I don't know, it's just not a very well understood piece of our spiritual life, but it should be there. But if you put, if we as a unified voice say never, then that's going to bring to a light that, hey, we might need to educate people more about spiritual direction, which is very important in your spiritual growth. Any thoughts so far? Any comments? Okay, I gotta get my computer to cooperate with me here. Here we go. A class or workshop about the Catholic faith. You should be trying to do that on a quarterly basis. We can always be learning something, and to better enrich our faith life, we certainly should be doing that on a very frequent basis. Going on retreats, we talked about that one earlier, at least yearly. Eucharistic adoration, minimum weekly, if not daily. Yeah. I think that's a very important thing, is spending time with our Lord. In fact, that's my plan after this. No matter what time we get out of here, I will be heading to a chapel to that's going to be my, decompress time. We're going to be talking and having a chat, about, is this thing, everything going the way he's asking me to have it go. So, I'm hoping he's going to say yay, but I'm pretty sure I know the answer. But I won't know that answer unless I show up. So, Catholic devotions, praying the Rosary, novenas, and other things of this nature. This is definitely should be a daily part of your spiritual life. And if it's not, another reason why you need a spiritual director to help you guide you down that path. And then this next piece of the survey gets into is this parish your primary place of worship? If it's not, why are you Catholic?
Seriously, I mean, it's yeah.
Do you believe it's the one holy Catholic and apostolic faith? That's the question you got to ask yourself.
I mean, again, we're not knocking you if you're struggling, but we don't understand why this question was even put on here. Like, what was the purpose? Exactly. Anybody that is a parishioner somewhere, it's 99% going to be their primary place of worship. It just doesn't make any sense, like so many questions on this survey. Go ahead, sir.
Nope, you're good. Tony, you have anything on that?
Nope, that's good.
Moving on to the next question. How many years have you been a member at this parish? I mean, this one, just answer it truthfully. I don't think this one's not going to hurt you or make or break a parish in any way, shape, or form.
No.
And the only thing that we saw on this one could be that if everybody in a particular parish answered 20 plus years, and they say, well, why don't you have younger? And if everybody was young, then you're too new of a parish to keep around. You don't have the tradition or whatever. Like that's how they're going to look at this, one way or the other. If it were, leveraged one way or the other in any given parish situation. I mean, that's my take on it. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's exactly right. So I wouldn't worry about how, how you answer that one.
Exactly. On average, and outside of Sunday Mass, how many hours a week do you spend leading or participating in ministries within the parish, whether that be council ministries, Bible studies, Knights of Columbus, these things? I mean, even someone that works full time, even at 60 hours a week, should be active in ministry outside of their work life and family life. I would say a minimum of the 5 to 14 hours, just because that's we're all called to service, right? And some of the stuff, I say Bible studies, prayer groups, these types of things that not only help enrich you spiritually, but also help raise up your brothers and sisters in Christ when you do those things and participate in those things. So I think as a Catholic, you should be participating at least that often in these things. Any thoughts on other outside of what I just said?
The 5 to 14 hours we marked.
Yeah.
And I think we marked that because if you really do anything less than that, and a lot of people say that, that's going to be put a target on that parish too.
Yes.
Right.
But there's not enough involvement.
Because that's basically saying that they're not promoting ministerial work or stewardship or these things that they've been preaching for years, right?
Right.
And so therefore not doing their job. And then we get into your children's religious education. I mean, this is going to be a matter of whether you have kids of that age or kids at all, for that matter, as to whether you choose yes or no. If you choose no, the survey will continue forward. But many Catholics out there have children, and so we chose yes. I have children myself, still in religious education, and so we wanted to dive into this piece as well. So please indicate how strongly you agree or disagree with these statements. How adequate? I have adequate support from my parish to help my children grow as a disciple of Jesus Christ. If you I mean, we chose agree, but I'm not. I thought it was strongly, but again, there's somebody can fill me in on this one. I don't remember because
I just think we felt Tony had a point here, but I think it was about basically that we felt that either choice was fine, but I think we chose agree.
Okay. And then one of my most important responsibilities as a parent is helping my child to know, or children to know, Jesus. Well, yeah. I mean, if you're a Catholic parent, that should be your number one priority.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our answer on the last,
you've been poorly catechized.
Yeah, and I think our answer on the last one was agreed, because we want to make sure that the parent is the primary educator of the children regarding Jesus and being a disciple, and the parish really should be assisting that. I think that was the logic we had.
Yep. No, absolutely. And then which best describes how you choose to educate your children? Here's the thing on this one. I mean, and anyone who has more than one child will agree with this statement, is that they are all different. And so to say that, what works for one works for another, nobody's cookie cutter, and that's no matter how you slice it, we just aren't. And so really the right answer on this one is I choose separately for each child, as it should be, because one child may respond better to any of these options better than another, right? So that's why we made that selection there. And do you currently send your children to religious education at this parish? I mean, you're going to want to choose yes there, just to show that the parish does have a parish religious life that you would feel comfortable sending your kids to. Because if it doesn't, then there's a bullseye. Which a lot of these questions are just designed for that.
So many of these questions that just put a bullseye on your parish's back, and we haven't even gotten to the worst of them yet.
No, we absolutely have not. Next is these strongly agree and disagree ones. Indicate the extent of how much you agree or disagree. Recommend my parish's religious education to a friend. I mean, you should agree with that. If you don't, then, A, why you're a parish, and B, put a bullseye if you, you want to go the other way on this one, And then the very next piece is demographics. We did not fill this out, and nor would we encourage anyone to fill this out, because none of this that they're talking about should have anything to do with demographics of any kind, shape, or form. Shouldn't matter, what sex you are, if you're fat or skinny, tall or short. Like, none of this stuff matters. It doesn't matter how much money you make. None of this stuff. And the beauty of this is that you can fill this survey out with literally not answering these questions, right? So,
and the reason we're basically saying this is this is data that is not going to be helpful to some parishes, and it's just not. We don't see any reason why this would be good to answer.
Yep. So we truly feel that we should not be answering the demographics.
So we just left that blank.
Completely past that, which is essentially 2 pages of, that type of stuff. Full on demographics. So the next one,
takes us.
I'm sorry.
So that takes us to
financial information.
How many parish-based ministries or parish-based?
No, I want to go back to the subtitle financial information and make a comment about that.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
Go back to that title, because the comment I'd like to make about this is, I believe in this week's letter from the Archbishop, in the review, the St. Louis Review, he said that the survey will have nothing to do with financial information.
And yet
here we are.
Here it is.
Right.
So, okay. Just a bit of information. I saw that and I'm thinking,
right.
Yeah, it's there.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And thank you for bringing that up. Because
and what that tells me is, I don't think he's looked at the survey.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I think a part of it is that, they're sold this product that, I'm sure he himself has utilized this organization, and if he hasn't, other of his kin have, or other bishops have, that have recommended this program to him. I know that Chicago, as a matter of fact, is in like year 2 of this particular process, and I had someone reach out to me very recently, actually within the last week, about exactly that, and what, because they're basically into the implementation phase of starting to shut things down.
And I do a great deal of work in Chicago with churches and parishes that are trying to avoid closure, and sadly, Chicago has been an absolute bloodbath for parishes. They're going to whack 123, I believe, just this year.
Right. We can talk off camera about that, Brody, because I think there's going to be some things that we need to talk about in that arena that we can.
What now?
We'll have to talk about them maybe off camera per se, because I think there's some stuff that we may need to get involved in up there. Just to.
Well, believe me, I think
part of Rome of the West, so might embody what we're doing here. Just they're in a later phase.
And I think I know what you're talking about, and we will talk about that off camera. But my point is absolutely that Chicago, we'll probably have some folks on from Chicago to talk about what the experience is up there. I mean, look, we're going to be having these Save Rome of the West podcasts very routinely, and we're gonna air a lot of stuff here. We're going to talk about the Catholic Leadership Institute. We're going to dive into them at some point. We're going to have people on that have been through this in other dioceses, so that St. Louis Catholics can see how much other Catholics have suffered from this process, and what a truly heart-wrenching process it's going to be for the St. Louis Archdiocese as this gets going. We're not going to sugarcoat it. We're going to give you live people who will explain at each step of this process what it's going to actually be like. So, That's exactly correct, Jason.
Yeah, and I want to encourage people that are on this now that maybe have friends that aren't on Facebook to direct them to Save Rome of the West, because I have been, in fact, we are up to date at the moment outside of some data that Brody's putting together
Yeah.
For our podcasts and things. So there is a section of podcasts, which is where the survey is actually right now, and its entirety of what we selected and every aspect of it. And then this podcast tomorrow will pop up, or even maybe tonight, because it's pretty quick and easy to add to the list. But this way people that aren't on Facebook can actually engage with us and see what we're doing here right now. So moving on to the next section of this, in the last year, how many different parish-based ministries or parish-based organizations have you participated in? We felt like the second to last, unless you truly are a 10+ guy, which would really be spreading yourself thin. 6 to 10 should be your answer there, because if you choose anything less than that, then that's saying that your parish is not as active as it should be, and therefore would put a target on their back. And then we get into factors and three most, what is it? Check 3 that are most influential in your current experience within your parish. This one, I mean, we chose the 3 that are going to be most relevant as a Catholic and should be the most relevant as a Catholic. I'm not going to bore you with reading all of them to you. So we chose celebration of the Eucharist, regular access to Eucharistic adoration and confession, and pastoral care and support for life events should be primary focuses, these things that should be part of your current experience. And if they're not, and if your parish doesn't have these 3, then there's some issue that definitely is going to need to be addressed, and it probably would be addressed in their eyes as consolidating you, putting you into another group of parishes. Any comments on that one?
No.
Okay. And then what's the most, did we miss these here, Tony? Because I'm not seeing them.
Either we missed them or I missed checking them
do you have, okay, so we
didn't miss them.
Okay. Do you have the answers, Tony? Because I don't have these answers listed here. So you're going to have to answer what we answered here, okay? And maybe these are, let's see, this one says, what is the most important reason to encourage community service in my parish? Well, all 3 of these are good, right? It's builds community, creates an opportunity for encounter, and Jesus calls us to serve the poor.
I believe we chose that one.
We chose the first one on this one, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Do you have that? Yeah, Tony?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Well, we may have to, I mean, if you can go back through and update that later, we can always, I can always
pay on your secretary. You need to cut the pay on your secretary.
That's okay. Yeah, I mean, we all make mistakes. It's still a big deal. On that, we can certainly fix that. So the first one should be your correct answer on that one.
Yes, it is. I'll change that and put that. I'll send it to you after.
Yeah, no worries. I can. It's very easy fix. Very easy fix for the site.
Yep.
What mass do you most frequently attend at your parish on the weekend? I mean, like this one we didn't answer. I know, because this is more or less like saying, okay, when we do go to restructure and make this new parish, which masses should we have? Yeah,
right.
Like we're going to look at the most popular answers, and top 5 answers are,
and they're going to get rid of the masses that not enough people select. So the way to make it less likely that your mass gets deleted is to not select anything. I mean, it's incredibly sad that this is how we have to approach things, but the reality of the situation is that's where we are.
Yep.
Yeah, and Darlene, the big question you ask is probably a question we all have, and I think we all tend to think that decisions have been made already.
We pretty much believe that, yeah.
And this is just they'll take the survey and they'll spin it such that they can say, well, this is what everybody wanted, and they agreed on it, and we asked them about it. So we kind of feel this might all be token.
But we also want to make sure that they can't say, well, nobody said anything otherwise.
Right.
That's right.
Well, and that's why, the majority of these questions we're answering, but certain ones were like, yeah, you don't get the input on this one. All right. So if you could only select 5 of these, which of the following expectations of a pastor would be most important? I mean, I guess this is how they're going to, divvy out the responsibilities or make sure that these particular needs are presented or given to us. Like, hey, how do we want to be fed as Catholics, right? Provide spiritual direction definitely is important. Providing pastoral care, again, very important. Teaching the faith, extremely important. Celebrating the sacraments probably should be at the very top of the list. Not even probably, is the top of the list. And then modeling a personal prayer life, because they really do need to be the role models here for us, right? That's why we chose those particular ones there.
The only question I have regarding this whole question is, shouldn't our leadership know what the expectations of a pastor are for leading the flock?
Right.
Yes.
I'm not sure why they ask us.
Right.
So, and therein, Tony, is perhaps why the Archdiocese of St. Louis and so many other dioceses are in the position they're in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad. I'm not, again, look, any priests watching this, I don't hate priests. I don't hate bishops. I've enjoyed working with the bishops who've been willing to work with me, and the archdiocesan officials and diocesan officials in this country who have been willing to work with me to make sure that we could find good solutions for churches that needed them. But I have to speak the truth. And what Tony just said is absolutely accurate. There's no reason why this question should be asked.
Right. No, absolutely. These things are definitely something that should be addressed on a more of a bishop level than a laity level, right? And then you get into, now from a lady's perspective, what a homily should look like from a view from the pew, if you will. We chose truth and knowledge should be the two most important factors in that. While sure, joy, hope, relevance. I mean,
great, but what do you have if you don't have truth and knowledge?
Exactly.
What do you have?
Exactly. What do you have? A bunch of fluff?
Yeah, a bunch of fluff that isn't going to help anybody with anything, and you're going to be worse off than you were when you started, or just as badly off at the very least.
Right. And so the very next question goes back to the staff again. It's like they want to try and get rid of somebody there, cut costs by getting rid of somebody in the parish staff, if you will. And so we decided that this was probably the best question, another one of these good questions not to answer, because you really, everybody's, from a pastoral or a parish staff standpoint is important, and not one is more important than another, if you will. And so therefore we feel it's best to not answer this question at all. And then the role of a pastoral council is to serve as advisor to the pastor. The pastor should be making the decisions. The pastor should have ultimate say as to what's going on. While he should certainly listen to his flock in many regards.
And he should be bound by the law, by what canon law requires. A pastor can't simply ignore the law, but we have to remember that a pastoral council, canon law makes clear, it is a purely advisory body.
Right. Right. And that's exactly what we here at St. Rome of the West are about, is following that canon law and making
Yeah,
sure that canon law is followed to the nth degree. Right. If canon law needs
indeed.
to change now, that's another that's in the College of Cardinals that have to take place. Correct.
Actually,
What?
a comment about this one too. It goes back to the question on the last page as to what your pastor should be doing, and I think that's part of this where they're talking about we need to function better in the secular world, secular society, I should say. And what they're doing here is probably asking the people, hey, what do you want your pastors to be? And, the function, it's like, no, that's kind of the secular approach. What should the boss be doing for me, right? And I think those what these questions are pointing toward. How do we satisfy the people versus, leading them?
Exactly. And when you play that game, when the church becomes nothing more than sort of, a dispensary of feel good whatever, you can
Yeah.
get that from any number of other sources. I mean, that goes back to the whole idea, we're in a post apostolic age, or what did they say, Tony?
Oh, I'd have to go back and
Whatever it was, and the secular mentality. I mean,
well, we've
no.
apostolic age where the church must assume a secular mentality, and I think
What was this about the apostolic age?
We've entered an apostolic age.
Oh, yeah.
Where the church must assume a secular mentality.
No.
So
No,
these
just
questions, to me, fill what they're saying there.
Yeah.
So going to the next question about the hats, all the hats that the bishop wears.
A mitre, last time I checked, right?
I think he wears a mitre. In the northern states, he wears a wool hat in the winter. But okay, I better not.
But I guess they're really more looking at roles here.
Yes.
And truly the two most important in this list of five would be the spiritual shepherd to the faithful, and the other one being the spiritual father to the priest. And my quick comment on this is that truly that spiritual should be in bold caps. They are not our health decision makers. They shouldn't be closing doors based on pandemics. They shouldn't be pushing vaccinations that have aborted tainted cells in them. I mean, and I could get on a huge soapbox on this, and I won't.
Yep.
But I'm just saying, they are spiritual leaders, and they, as Father Altman said, they starved us when they closed those doors, and they truly did.
Amen.
They truly did.
Amen. Yeah.
So,
you don't think
any
they
other
should
comments on this?
You don't think they should be chief executive of the diocese?
Sadly, the only comment that I have is this is what far too many of our bishops believe themselves to be.
That's exactly
This is what they see as their role. And nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah.
And the reason that we are in the mess that we're in as a church universal is because this is what, be they liberal or conservative, so-called,
yes,
many of our bishops have seen themselves as chief executives.
Right.
Not following the role of a shepherd.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so then you get to the next question, which is all parishes have opportunities for growth. What three of the following things that the parish needs more of, which would they be? And we chose more volunteers participating in ministries, more transparency, and more catechesis on church teaching. Any of these other things are fluff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Just from our standpoint, I mean, there might be one other. I don't remember. Was there something else in here that we said we were kind of debating on? There was an either or on this one.
No, one of the comments I had about even the one we chose, more transparency.
Yes.
That's of course a term that's used anymore. But when I think of that, and in my past, I've never thought of transparency. I always, you have relationships with people and organizations, and you end up, from your experience, knowing if you can trust them or not trust them. And when somebody tells me they're going to be transparent, that kind of sends a message to me that, well, it sounds like they aren't transparent right now. What are you keeping from me? Type of thing. It's kind of a term that's used nowadays, but when they say transparency, it usually means they aren't.
And Tony, I hear you. And the main thing that I would say to anybody, again, in the archdiocese or parishes that is watching and listening to this, just start turning over the stuff that you need to turn over. Just
Yes.
do it. Just do it.
Yes.
If you want to call it transparency, fine, but just do it. And actions speak way louder than words here.
And I would say that that's really more it. The actions speaking louder than words. I mean, because as far as like from my own personal experience, especially more lately than because I feel so strongly about transparency that I want transparency. I try to make sure that people do know that I am transparent, that I don't have any skeletons in the closet, and if you uncover one, that I will own that skeleton, and I'll, if there's some more of the restitution that needs to be, paid as a result of that skeleton or whatever, I'll gladly do it. Or if I've wronged you in some way, I'll gladly, ask forgiveness and offer amends in that regard. But yeah, I just the transparency factor I think is very important, which is why we have a lot of the problems, because there really truly isn't transparency, right?
Yeah, I think that your call to action, the action, Brody, is yes. If you need to know more about the finances or decisions, ask your question and make sure, don't stop asking it till you get an answer.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Indeed.
All right. So this next question, don't answer. I think is what we had said. What would best describe your assessment of the financial health of your parish? Don't
So
answer
let's
that.
just back up to why we don't want to answer this.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you address this one, Brody, because
now we've come to the granddaddy of all third rails within this survey. And now what you've got here's what's going to happen. Okay, so the archdiocese eventually is going to start closing parishes and trying to permanently close and sell churches, or just bulldoze them, depending on what I guess their inclination is. And this information is going to be absolutely critical to the archdiocese being able to carry out those plans, because here's where the rubber hits the road. And I hate to be using cliches, but I have to here. In order to close a parish under canon law, something known as a just cause is needed. That means a cause that is not super serious, but serious enough. In order to get rid of a church permanently, close it or to tear it down, you need under canon law what's known as a grave, grave, cause. And there are two causes on their face that are grave: that a church is damaged beyond any point of repair, or that there are no finances available from any source to care for it. In parishes with targets on their backs, the biggest bullseye of all that you can put on your parish's back is that it's financially in bad shape, or that the church is in problematic condition. Now, let's be very clear. We're all aware that there are some parishes in this archdiocese that are both financially in problematic shape, or that have structures, churches, etc., that are less than well maintained. And quite honestly, again, the archdiocese needs to take a whole big share of that responsibility for letting things get to where they've gotten. But that aside, they know all of this. This is an opportunity for them to spin these questions by saying, well, the people themselves are saying that their parishes are financially problematic, or that the churches themselves are problematic. And the people want their parishes to close. Even if that's not what someone wants and you're just answering honestly, they're going to use this against you, in my opinion, and in all of our opinions. So just don't answer it. But in order to really go through this, we're going to tackle each of these questions because I found these to be so offensive and so problematic that we need, even though we're telling you don't answer them, I want to dissect these in depth before we proceed. So Jason, let's start with this one.
I mean, I think you just dissected that one.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I feel like you truly dissected that particular one, right?
Well, let's just read it again.
We can. So, like when you look at this one, you know the financial health of your parish. You know,
yeah. I mean, again, if it's not healthy,
we're usually in the black, but never complacent. We build our own, but there's a lot of room for extras. Or we hold our own, but there's a lot of room for extras. We had some ups and downs and are shooting for stability. We are consistently struggling to meet our financial needs. I don't know enough to answer this question.
And you realize if you answer that you're consistently struggling, you've just closed your parish. It's pretty much that simple.
Exactly right.
On this one,
you know,
in my opinion,
if you go to the other end of that spectrum and you say, "Oh wow, we're in the black, we're great," you know, then you're running into a situation of, you know, that them saying, "Oh well, here's a place we can draw funds from that maybe you know we're not aware."
So what they'll do to you if you answer that you're in the black? Here's another trick that exists canonically. Okay. The parishes that have debt to the archdiocese.
Right.
Okay. If you merge a parish, let's do a hypothetical. We lawyers love these. Let's assume that you've got parish A. Wish I had like a diagram thingy, but we'll just ask people to follow along. Let's assume you have parish A and that it has 300,000 in debt. And let's assume that you have parish B that has $1 million in the bank. Okay? The archdiocese has a right, when it merges two parishes together, to collect the debts that are incurred. Canonically speaking, they have this right. So they can then, if you merge 300,000 in deficit with $1 million in cash, they would have the right to collect their 300,000 by skimming it off the top. And we've seen this happen in other dioceses repeatedly. So if you're giving them information or you're saying, well, my parish is healthy, you're also inviting your bank account to potentially be drained.
Right.
If that's what they choose to do.
Right.
Hey, I got one comment here regarding.
Yeah, I just scrolled back and looked while Brody was talking about that. Yeah, I've got it up on the screen right now as far as the community.
We haven't skipped community values. That's the last question on the survey. We'll be covering that.
Oh, okay.
We'll be getting to that.
I just scrolled back to see if we had actually touched on it. It looked like we had a little bit, but maybe there's more to it.
Yeah, there's more to it. It's
so many questions in this thing. Yeah. Okay, so where are we at here?
We just finished finances. Let's hit the next one.
Okay, I'm just trying to find back where we were here. Sorry.
I mean, the fact that they say this is doable in 10 or 15 minutes, on what planet? I'm sorry, but I mean,
well, if you don't care, that planet.
If you don't care, yeah.
You know, that would be it. Okay,
we were on this for 3.5 hours the other evening, just prepping for this evening's podcast. I mean,
we're already almost into 2 hours, my friend.
Yeah.
All right. So, which would best describe your assessment of the physical shape of your church building? You know, this kind of goes back to the last one to a certain extent. You know, as far as you know, first of all, I mean, are you a home appraiser or a church appraiser? You know,
yeah, I mean, they're trying this one. This is a church killer,
right?
You know, exactly right. You tell them that your church is in bad shape. I mean, first of all, they know it anyway, but they're going to say, well, yeah, they want it closed. They know they need to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we expect to happen here, in our opinion. But let's even look at. Good. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, and then if you go to the other end of that spectrum and say, "Oh man, it's beautiful," I recently restored and renovated. I mean, the one that killed us, I think, the most on this one was the lots of memories one. I mean, come on.
This one, let's just look at this. Read that out, Jason, just because I can.
Yeah, lots of memories. The church has a lot of different deferred maintenance and isn't the most welcoming or attractive of spaces, but it has lots of memories.
Lots of memories, and this goes back to the fundamental fallacy that has been perpetrated on the faithful by so many of our shepherds over the last 50 to 60 years. Again, I'm going to say it. A church is not a building. It is not a building. It is a sacred building. It is sacred. It has been set apart ontologically. It has been transformed into a place reserved specifically for Catholic worship. And the way that our shepherds and our leaders have been getting away with bulldozing church after church over the last 4 decades or so is by convincing people that, oh, they're just places of memory. They're really not any more than buildings. We have to do this. It's not important. And I'm sorry to be snarky, but I'm just, after watching as many grown men and women cry as I have, after shedding as many tears as I have at the loss of my own family's church that we spent 5 generations in, I have no use and no patience and no tolerance at all for these completely incorrect descriptions of churches. And when I see the usage of the word memories here to try and basically lull people into being happy at the destruction of their churches, that just offends me and angers me in ways that very little else can. So I have to call it out.
Right. No, and that's what it needs to be. These things need to be brought to light. That's why, we are spending this time in this dissection process. And so, truly we feel on this one, don't answer it,
Don't answer it at all. Just leave it blank. Then it can't be used against you. And yes, Ben, you are correct. They want you to rush.
Yep. And then and it's the same as the very next question of the assessment of other buildings on the church's property.
Same thing. Same problem.
Exactly the same thing. Exactly the same problem. Don't answer this one.
Don't answer
What is the most preferred method of bringing others closer to Christ? Well, I mean, this goes back to the many parts, one body. Like, we all have different charisms and things of this nature. So, I mean, there is no wrong answer, I don't think, on this one, except for going door to door to invite others. And the reason I say that is that we're not Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, I don't know that Christ had, called for a door to door salesman. Let me tell you more about Jesus. I mean, that to me is just that's a whole nother aspect that doesn't scream Catholicism to me in any way, shape, or form. That is not how you're going to evangelize, I don't believe. I mean, I can go out to my neighbor across the street or whatever and talk about Catholicism, but I'm certainly not going to go to the neighborhood next door and start beating the pavement to, knock doors, if you will. I did that for too many years of my life, actually, and I don't know. It just doesn't seem like we're called to do that. So, any other thoughts on that one?
Totally correct.
Okay.
On just that. I mean, there are Catholics who do it. I'm not going to knock them if that's what they want to do, but yeah, I mean, it was when I was living in New York, that was something that was done by some, but in Manhattan, but yeah, it's not common.
Yeah, and this next question truly is going to give them fodder for their how they spin and promote all things new. How do you want to be advertised to? Essentially, is what this question is asking you. It says, to what degree do you think that your parish needs to change in order to best fulfill its mission in the next 5 years? Right? If you answer this question, you're basically just saying, how do you want this advertisement to look? How do you want us to tell you that to make you feel good about this whole process? So that's essentially why We didn't.
We didn't answer that.
Yeah. And
Yeah, one of the questions we had around this, they said, do you think your parent needs to change in order to best fulfill its mission? And first
If
of all,
you
you
put
need to define
yes,
mission. The mission isn't defined here.
right.
exactly right. Yeah, and it's another reason why we had said not to answer this one. And now we get into the one that Ben had asked about the community values,
right.
and the ranking order of all these things. So we're just going to show them up on screen as to, I mean, I don't know. Do you think we should read them? 1 through 9 on each of these, or just leave them up on screen for a second? Because essentially all of this is on the website. The entire thing is in a PDF format that you can print out and be able to follow along with. Because the order that we chose on this first one. I mean, you guys tell me on this one, like if we need to continue the commentary too much on this, or if we need to read through our selections. What do you think?
I'd read through them because I have a comment on at least.
All right,
one.
then I'll read through them then. Fair enough. So the order that we ranked them in was first top one should be access to the sacraments and worship. Second one being sharing the faith with others. Third one being stewardship. Fourth one being prayerfulness. Fifth one being family focused. Sixth one getting into parish traditions. Seventh being service and outreach, although that might be 6 instead of 7. Then social justice, and then diversity and inclusion.
Okay, that's the one I had the comment on.
Yeah,
just a buzzword for the culture, and I have a real problem with diversity, and it goes back to, I guess, 70 years ago, which I probably learned that God created every person in His image and likeness, and I think that takes care of diversity. Diversity in our culture is being used to really divide us. That term, they talk about that, but no, we should, as Catholics, understand that yes, we're all created equal God in His image and likeness.
yeah, no, absolutely, and this shouldn't be something that goes into is called into play here, but the culture that we live in, unfortunately, it is something on everybody's radar as to, but as Catholics, it probably should be at the bottom because we are equal. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that as we talked about things, we talked about things insulting us and that one insults me as a Catholic.
Right. And this actually completes the survey. I think we have gotten through. Is there another page that I'm missing here?
No, that's it.
I think that's it.
Okay, because it says it's 93% complete on my screen here, so I didn't know if there was another page that we didn't print out or what. So
no, we got everything.
So
okay. So at this point, let's open it up for questions
questions and such, and going from there.
Yeah.
And we'll say, we got through this in 2 hours, considering that it took 3.5 the other evening.
Well, it actually took closer to 4.
It did.
It actually did. Yeah. Well, we didn't want to drag this out too much either.
Yeah, you might have counted it on Eastern time.
Right. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to chop this podcast into 2 parts. I think we'll just leave it as is.
I think we'll leave it as is, and it'll be a long one like the other one. But if anybody has any questions,
when they go to look at it, they should be able to hit markers and say, okay, well, I left off at 1 hour or whatever. So that
it was as painful for us to do as it may have been for you
to tune in and stay
to watch.
And we appreciate everybody that did tune in,
stayed with us
during this live feed here. So that being said, I'm not seeing. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of folks right at the moment tuned in. So if anybody has anything, if you can throw it up in the comments there that you'd like us to answer or address, we'd be happy to do that for you.
And I mean, the main thing that we want to do, again, and, we invite the Archdiocese to, if you want to appear, Father Martin, on one of these podcasts, reach out to us. You want to refute what we've said here. You want to enter into a discussion about any of this, reach out. We'll put you on.
Yeah, that's anybody that's involved in this All Things New. We'll take. We'll be happy to have discussion, as you say. You want to have. We want to have the discussion. We want to, and especially if there's something that we need to be corrected on under Matthew 18, we realize that we definitely do not. Are not infallible in many ways, and can own when we make a mistake or error in what we say. We have said the things that we have said because we do feel strongly about it, and do kind of see things for what they are. Like I've always called a spade a spade. And so while it has gotten me in trouble in many aspects of my life, at this stage, I'm really more trying to keep the church as true as possible. So Ben has a question here. It says, just what actions can we take against the Archdiocese in regards to this initiative? I'm going to direct this one to Brody as far as, we kind of addressed this a little bit in our last podcast. But say, and Ben, you can correct me if I'm wrong as to what you're kind of getting or clarify, I guess. But I guess you're wondering what happens if my parish is getting ready to be closed and or sold. Would that be?
We're gonna be here for the long haul. We're gonna be here to defend Catholics and help Catholics defend themselves when this thing gets rolling. So let's just sort of recap where this is all going to go. This is all going to end on Pentecost of 2023. And that's the day when the Archdiocese of St. Louis is going to announce which parishes it's closing. Now, that's going to be a tough day because it's going to mean that not only are targets pinned to the backs of various parishes, the firing squads are coming out and they're going to be, active efforts to get rid of them. And what we are hearing, and we posted a homily, did we not, on this, Jason?
Yes.
From one archdiocesan priest. There's basically a lot of reports that we're getting that 2/3 of the archdiocese's parishes are going to be closed. That's going to be insanely high carnage. And we're looking at massive, massive numbers of churches being under attack as a result. Once the shock of this is worn off and we have determined who is impacted, okay, then we are, going to be able to basically swing into action. We're going to, at that point, and we're going to do field trips, part of the Save Rome of the West team. We're going to start going around to visit various parishes that we're able to connect with. And, if you want us to connect directly with you, please feel free to email us or message us and we'll make that happen. But we're going to reach out and try to make sure when this happens, excuse me, I'm sorry, that every Catholic has access to the information that I'm about to repeat to you right now. We're going to repeat this again, and we're going to actually help Catholics do this if they wish. So when your parish is announced for closure, when these announcements are going to be made, I'm not sure what the Archdiocese is going to do. Canon law makes clear that a church is not supposed to be closed at the same time as a parish. A church is not supposed to be closed at the same time as a parish, because churches are, when a parish is eliminated, churches become the property of the new parish. They're supposed to have the opportunity to figure out what to do with them. But let's just assume for the moment that, once these announcements are made, they'll be followed up by decrees, DECREES, being issued by Archbishop Brzezinski. And a canonical decree is a piece of paper that says the word decree on it. And what that decree does is it will announce the day that your parish and or church is closing. It has to be 2 separate decrees. I remind this to Archbishop Brzezinski again, because there's a famous incident involving Holy Rosary Parish of Springfield, Massachusetts, where he first issued a decree that closed the parish and the church all at once, and it wasn't until later that he split that into 2. And Your Excellency, I've not forgotten this, if you are watching us this evening. So let's remember, we have to issue separate decrees for the closures of parishes and churches. So this decree will have, I hereby order your church or parish to close on XYZ day. The day that the decree is issued opens a 10-day window during which lay Catholics have a right to file what's known as a petition for hierarchical recourse. That means a canonical appeal against the closure of a parish and a church. Now, depending on what the decrees say, depends on whether you need to file 1 appeal or 2 for your parish or your church or both. These decrees are public, okay? They're public. Every person who is a Catholic, who's a parishioner of a parish that is impacted, has a right to the decree. Reverend Fathers and Monsignors, if you're watching and if you're a pastor, you can't hide the decrees from your parishioners. Parishioners, if you're watching, if Father says he doesn't have them, make Father understand that Father is absolutely required to receive a copy of a decree. If Father announces your parish is going to close on XYZ day, he's got a decree, or somebody's got a decree and he didn't get it. So you've got to track the decree down one way or the other. Go to the archdiocese if need be. But when a decree comes down, or when a day is announced that your parish is going to definitely be closing on a certain day, you have 10 days to file a petition for hierarchical recourse. That is a formal canonical appeal. And that is it contains basically all of the reasons why a church or parish shouldn't be shut. It's in the black, church is in good shape, what have you. And once you file this thing, you file it with Archbishop Brzezinski first, because he is the ordinary or archbishop of your archdiocese. And once you file it with him, within 10 days, you have a 10-day window to file it. He has 30 days to decide whether he wants to reverse himself and withdraw the decree, or if he wants to keep going, and it's absolutely going to close you. And if he wants to keep going, then he has to tell you that either in writing or by not responding in 30 days. Silence after 30 days equals a no in canon law. And then you have 15 more days to take it to Rome, to a department of the Holy See called the Congregation for the Clergy. You have to file another appeal with them. And then they'll take 3 months to over a year to rule. And if you don't like, or whomever loses has a final appeal that they have to make within 60 days of the loss, to a court called the Supreme Tribunal of the Apostolic Signatura. That's the Supreme Court of the Holy See. And the first 2 levels of appeal are free. The 3rd level of appeal costs, a good bit of money to do, because you have to hire a Roman canonist and pay a filing fee, which is non-refundable to the court. But we're going to go through all this. We're going to have a podcast specifically devoted to this at some point. And we'll help whomever wants to file an appeal. We'll help you write your appeal. I've been doing this work for well over a decade, helping Catholics navigate this. We're here for you in this time of great need that your parishes may experience. And so those are the things that you can do. That's what can be done. And Jason or Tony, if you have any questions to try to bring out anything I missed that you've heard me talk about in the past, please feel free.
We can't hear you, Jason.
And that would help to unmute my mic. No, I honestly, I think you have hit on pretty much all the points. And one of the things too, I mean, we are certainly looking for others to help engage, especially when this time comes, to help in this process of making sure that the appeals are written properly. It's going to be a monumental task, to say the least. And one of our goals is to reach more people. So I mean, really, if we can get more word out about the site, and what we do, because this information will be up on the site. We will have, I don't know, Brody, and correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there forms that we can even publish on our site just so that they can maybe, or is it something that we need to walk through each individual?
We could. I would rather review any appeals myself that folks would want to file to make sure they're filed correctly, but we certainly could put an appeal template up.
Okay.
You're not, believe me, you're not at any loss by turning to us for help.
Right.
There's a million things that you need to know that you don't even know you need to know if you want to save a church. And we'll be happy to help you avoid the pitfalls. I've seen too many people say, oh, I'm going to do this myself, and then end up losing. So if you want to do it yourself, okay, but we'd rather you just let us help you.
And Ben had a follow-up to his question, asking if during that appeal process, if in fact his parish would stay open during that process.
No, it will not, sadly. Your parish will not stay open during the appeals process. The archdiocese will not be able to sell it or gut it. The canon law will prevent that, but no, unfortunately, it will not stay open during the appeal. If you win, it'll reopen. You can look online at the 11 parishes in Cleveland that reopened in 2012 after appeals, which is the most in any diocese, but it will not remain open during the appeal, unfortunately.
So, yeah, the important thing here is that we don't just give up just because we hear
Indeed.
that we don't, right? We have to, each individual has to take that stand and move forward. And one of the other important things that Brody didn't touch on is the fact that, say you go to a parish but don't live in its boundaries, you have no rights to know this, right? So you're going to have to make sure that you live in the boundaries of the parish that's impacted by said decree. And that's the other side of what we're doing, is to try and bring awareness to this piece, because there's many Catholics out there that don't necessarily like the parish that they live in the boundaries of, per se, no matter, for whatever reason that may be, whether it's a priest they don't get along with, or a style of worship they don't particularly agree with. But you absolutely have to agree, or have to live inside that parish boundaries. And this is another reason why it's very important that we get a broader stretch. And I'm doing what I can. I've got some thought processes in mind of how we can maybe get more visibility in these parishes. But that's another topic for us to try and figure out. And Ben, I will say this about your last comment here about what you've been doing to help spread the word. I do appreciate how you have promoted Save Rome of the West on your Facebook group page, that you have had you had posted it earlier in the chat here, and I have no problem just throwing that up here for a quick second. That group is great, and you do have quite a few, this unofficial St. Louis Archdiocese discussion group. It is good. It is good, and we need to get more people there to Save Rome of the West, really, to get these discussions on the right track, and bring people to the right answers here, right?
And if I had a comment about that, Benjamin, for Save Rome of the West, as we go through this whole process, they've got their proposed timeline, and there's various things. Of course, we're starting with the survey here, but there's listening sessions, all these things. we'll be developing information about those, and they will be on our website. And Jason and Brody, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe all that information we're going to have on our website that he could share with his group.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We're absolutely in the process of doing that. I have a 22,000 word document, which we're going to break up into pieces. And I know I've been telling Jason this for weeks. And it's
how many times I gotta tell you, you're gonna scare people away by saying 22,000 words. I will make this.
What do you work for the government?
Yeah, it's another version of the obey me. I mean,
Brody, Mary's rubbing her head over here.
Well, he is a lawyer, so
I'm a lawyer. We're guilty. But
no, yeah, we are going to be putting that up in such a way that it's digestible, if you will.
Yes.
But
breakdown by topic.
We are going to be doing more of these podcasts, whether mostly through Facebook Live, because I do enjoy this platform as far as being able to engage with people. I don't know of any other platform out there other than maybe YouTube, which is not out of the question. We could potentially
do that and see how that would go with YouTube and comments on YouTube. It's just that
because I mean I think the most important thing for us at this point is really true to just get the word out, to get people to understand all the information. I mean, and I'm sure you've been to our site and you've seen kind of where we're at with the progress so far. There's plenty of information for people to dive into. The entire survey that we went over tonight is up there. There's going to be maybe a slight modification from the secretarial standpoint, but outside of that, I mean, we have the survey up. This whole podcast, like I said, it won't be hard for me to get it up in the next 24 hours, if not, pretty much immediate. So, we got to just keep getting people and keep driving people here. So, after tonight, then if you want to throw something up on your site, to the effect.
I was even going to suggest, if Ben really wants to get involved, maybe shoot Jason an email and find a time for you both to talk or something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we'll consider onboarding anybody that wants to volunteer with Save Rome of the West, because many hands does make light work, and we could certainly use more hands.
Use the help, and maybe if you really want to, maybe depending on how this goes, you can join our next podcast or something.
Right.
I'm not opposed to. Believe me, we're not opposed to adding more people. To that.
Sorry about that. All right. I don't see any other comments in here, so let's go ahead and just close this out in prayer.
Sure, absolutely.
In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost, Amen.
Amen.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for guiding your Holy Spirit to us to help shed light on the survey, as we help shed light on others for directing them and making sure that your holy spaces are protected and saved from closure and sale. We ask for your continued guidance in this process. We ask for your intercession to make sure that we know your holy will, and we give all thanks and glory to you for all that has transpired thus far, as we say, glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit. As
Amen.
At the beginning, is now, and ever
shall be. Roll to that end. Amen.
Saint Stephen Protomartyr, pray for us. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Good night, everyone.
Good night.